Welcome to the Red Bull Ring and the second round of the ADAC GT Masters here in the blistering sunshine and air temperature of 31.4 degrees, track temperature of 48.8. Glorious here at the Red Bull Ring. The Red Bull Ring where in the past the Corvettes have been so dominant. Back in 2014 and 2013 across all four races. In those years it was an absolute Corvette lockout. Diego Alesi and Daniel Kylwitz in 2013 taking the wins in race 1 and in race 2, and in 2014 it was Oliver Gavin and Daniel Kylwitz again in the Callaway competition. Corvette Z06R GT3 taking both wins. The way the grid looks today, well, it's a welcome back to Philipp Eng, the current Porsche Carrera Cup champion, who teams up with Klaus Bachler in the Porsche of Schutzer Motorsport on pole position. Alongside is the MRS GT racing car of Florian Schulze and Dominik Jost, the gorgeous Nissan GTR Nismo GT3 from MRS Racing. So we have Porsche and Nissan on the front row. Then we see the Reiter Engineering car of David Russell and Thomas Enger P3. That being the Lamborghini Gallardo RX. And P4 on the grid is that Corvette that we were saying has been so dominant in the last 2 years, driven by Andreas Wirth and Daniel Kylwitz, the Callaway competition Corvette Z06 GT3R. So hour-long race, as always, with the ADAC GT Masters, with a pit stop window between 25 and 35 minutes into the race. And it's Klaus Bachler and Christian Engelhardt right at the top of the points chart, but it's Philipp Eng, as you can see his helmet and hands device there, who is replacing Christian Engelhardt at this round. Now their lead at the top of the points is but 1 point from Luca Ludwig and Sebastian Asch in the Mercedes-Benz, and they're on the third row of the grid, going from P6 in the Zach Speed, Team Zach Speed Mercedes-Benz. Was with breakfast with Luca Ludwig this morning at the hotel. Cool, confident as he always does. Also interesting this round is we see the first showing of the Huracan, which is here with Mirko Bortolotti and Adrian Zaug, car number 63. Lamborghini Huracan from the GRT Grasser team. And that goes from the third row of the grid, P5. Very, very beautiful looking car indeed. In fact, all the cars across the grid of the ADAC GT Masters look outstanding. Big crowd here to enjoy the sunshine and to enjoy the race action from the GT Masters. We are but just over 5 minutes away from the race getting underway here at the Red Bull Ring. 4.326 kilometers the circuit. First turn is the right-hander. It's very uphill from start to the Castrol Edge, and there you can see on screen that is the turn 2, the Remus turn. You can see what a drag it is up to the Remus turn before they head down to turn 3, which is Schloss Gold. Then downhill Rauch is turn 4, the Vert Curve 5, and then they head towards turn 6 and 7, and the final turn is turn 8, the Red Bull Mobile turn. It's Red Bull Ring. It is the second round of the ADAC GT Masters in the sunshine, and therein the shadows of the Red Bull is a phenomenally scenic circuit, and that is a magnificent piece of architecture, that's for sure. 4.326 kilometer circuit, the Red Bull Ring, featuring 8 challenging turns, very uphill and downhill here, and a lot going in to the ADAC GT Masters this weekend. Top of the points, Klaus Bachler and Christian Engelhardt. It's Klaus Bachler and Philipp Eng, though, that go from pole position today. Philipp Eng replacing Christian Engelhardt. Philipp Eng, the current Porsche Carrera Cup champion Deutschland, and Austrian. So 2 Austrians together in that car with Klaus Bachler and Philipp Eng. And you can see as we zoom into that car, it's to the very left of the grid here. Plonking the car on pole position for race 1. Talked to Philipp Eng, who was in conversation with the DTM racer Lucas Auer just before coming up to the comms booth. As always, Philipp, quiet and unassuming, but devilishly quick out on track, as was proved from qualifying. We're looking back down from the Remus turn, which is turn 2, and the big crowd here at the Red Bull Ring to enjoy this racing. Air temperature of just under 32 degrees, track temperature just under 49, as the grid is being cleared now and we are about to go racing. P going back further down the grid as we look at that Nismo Nissan going right alongside Philipp Eng, going from P2, Dominic Yost and Florian Scholz, David Russell and Thomas Enger. The Reiter Engineering Camaro has gone, and in its place is that phenomenal looking Lamborghini Gallardo RX. Then we see the car that has been very, very dominant here with Andreas Wirth and Daniel Kylvitz, the team this year, but that car over the last 2 years has taken 4 wins out of 4 starts. So the Corvette very, very dominant here at the Red Bull Ring, and going from the second row of the grid. Now, Adrian Zaug and Mirko Bortolotti then, I was talking about this Lamborghini Huracan that makes its debut for the GRT Grasser Racing team, and starting from P5 on the grid. Again, another absolutely beautiful car. And we are blessed with many of those, as we see the Sebastian Asch and Luca Ludwig team Zach Speed Mercedes-Benz going from P6. Thumbs up from the cockpit. Nice little bit of work there from our cameraman as we go to the Mark Gasner, Florian Strauss MRS GT Racing Nissan. As the cars fire up now, we are just under a minute away from racing. Patrick Assenheimer and Diego Alesi. Diego Alesi, former champion, of course, ADAC GT Masters. Another one of those very, very potent around here Callaway competition Corvettes. Pit stop window between 25 and 35 minutes into the race for driver change. And there we look further back down the grid. Fabian Hamprecht and Clement Schmidt in that fantastic Bentley. Continental GT3, Philipp Eng and Klaus Bachler we were on board with just momentarily as we look back at David Russell and Thomas Enger, and now that super shot right from the very, very front of the grid, just parked up behind the safety car, that camera, and the cars will be off in 1 second's time. About that for perfect timing. It's going to be hot, it's going to be humid, and going to be very, very interesting race ahead. The ADAC GT Masters, this is round 2 here at the Red Bull Ring. From here we go to Spa, then to Lausitzring, Nürburgring, Sachsenring, Zandvoort, and Hockenheim. Philipp Eng then it is, who has taken the Castrol Edge turn and now weaves from side to side and heads up towards Remus. Big kink in this uphill section as they head towards the Remus turn. A favourite place to try and set up an overtake move here at the Red Bull Ring. And over the years we've seen many of those. The sound of these cars is fabulous. Almost as great to hear them as to see them. So here comes the starting grid in full for you. It's race 1 of 2 this weekend. It's Philipp Eng on pole with Dominic Yost alongside. Then we see Russell and Wirth P3 and P4. It's the Huracan with Adrian Zaug P5 and Sebastian Asch P6. Then it's Gassner 7 and Assenheimer P8. Then we see the Bentley Continental GT3 in the hands of Schmidt and Dobic alongside with Jens Klingman, the BMW Z4. Small BMW lockout for P11 and 12. 13, it's Bentley and Audi. And then we see Rahal Frey P15 and Remo Lips alongside. Then it's Prochik and Wackerbauer. Jordan Lee Pepper and Knoll, and then Weishaupt brings up the rear of the grid. Balanced performance really not helping the Audis here at the Red Bull Ring. So with the MRS team and also in the Schutzer Motorsport garage as the cars are on their formation lap. Now the number 1 Audi you see being driven by Stefan Wackerbauer and Kelvin van der Linde had an engine change, an engine blow-up, which cost them quite a bit of time on track. The Audi safety car leading them around the Red Bull Mobile final turn here. They head in towards that final turn now. They're going through Rindt, but this is the Red Bull Mobile turn. And you have full vision of the lights as well. And Philipp Eng it is on pole position in that Porsche. And the lights go green and we are away and racing. Eng will want to put it in. Make sure he sticks P1 going into the first turn. Also having a real go though is the Nissan. Eng is on the inside, takes quite a bit of curb. That will have slowed him down a little bit as the rest of the pack seem to come through okay. And Eng has been hung out to dry there, and he's going to lose a couple of places perhaps on this run up to the Remus turn. It is the Nissan that has taken the lead, and then the ever-dominant Corvette comes through to take P2. And Philipp Eng under pressure then in P3 as he tries to retake that place through the Remus turn where everyone runs wide. But it is the Nissan that leads the way, and Eng and the Corvette absolutely side by side. It's Porsche and Corvette going into Schloss Gold. And Philipp Eng has regained P2, or has he? Going down to the Roush turn now. There's a challenge now. The Corvette is having to defend from the Lamborghini as well. And of course, this is all playing into the hands of the Dominic Jost, Florian Scholzer Nissan, which is able to get up the road. Philipp Eng now, just a little bit of flapping on the bodywork at the front end of that Porsche where there was clearly some contact early on. Just, you can see it there on the right-hand side of your picture. So the start is under investigation, we're being told, as one lap gets completed in this 60-minute race as the Audi of Daniel Dobic and Sandstrom right out onto the runoff area. So Dominic Jost leads from Philipp Eng, then it's Vert, then it is Russell, then it's Ash, then it's Hurtgen, as there is contact. And a round has gone. The number 23 car, and also that of Edward Sandstrom and Daniel Dobic. So the Strauss-Gassner car, let's see it again. Really rather started off, wasn't it, by... let's see that again, because... well, the Nissan really just caught up in that. Very, very unfortunate. Just getting clunked by the number 100 car of Daniel Dobic, which in turn had been run into by Rahal Frey. And that provokes a safety car. The Mark Gassner Florian Strauss Nissan GTR Nismo is stuck right across the track. Snatch vehicle to get rid of that car. Their race is done and dusted. And there is the safety car ready to pick them up. And wow, in under 5 minutes of this race, safety car out. And Philipp Eng perhaps will be thanking his lucky stars, because this means he will be able to get onto the back of the number 22 machine of Dominic Jost. So the Nissan out of the way, which presumably means that the safety car should come in after just this lap. What it does, it bunches them all back up again. And here we can see in replay the start. racing room, and that was the little bit of contact between Philipp Eng and Dominic Jost. Confirmation that the safety car is coming in this lap. We're on board with David Russell. See Eng just trying to squeeze out the Nissan. Took quite a bit of curve. Now that cost him. And then from on board looking backwards. Everyone through the pack jostling for position, including the all-new Huracan that's in, but you can see Eng just took a little bit too much curve, and that just unsettled the back end of the car, lost a little bit of momentum. Jost was already right alongside, and we're on board with Philipp Eng now in replay. Now at this point, that's where he loses his P2 position to that Corvette. So throwing in loads of replays. This is a replay of the accident where Rahul Frey into the side of the Daniel Dobic car, which in turn took out the other Nissan Nismo, and there you can see the damage to the Daniel Dobic Audi. So let's pick them up live. There is the safety car coming in this lap, and race being led by Dominic Jost. Philipp Eng is P2, David Russell is P3, Andreas Wirth is P4. So Eng, so dominant in qualifying, is going to try and make a move on Dominic Jost right from the safety car in. Now, roles are reversed here. Eng on the outside of the Nissan Nismo, tucks right in behind it. This is a brilliant onboard picture to take as Philipp Eng. Now what they're going to come across is the effectively back marking Daniel Dobic car up ahead, as you can see. Eng to the inside, to the outside is the David Russell car. And there from on board. So the two are absolutely side by side. We're watching this battle for P2. David Russell hangs it around the outside. And if he's got the momentum to hang on to this, he is going to be in the right place for the next turn, and that is going to push Philipp Eng back. There, you saw it live as Philipp Eng goes down to P3 now. Ignore the number 100 car. That is a back-marking car. Whilst the rest of this battle continues, Dominic Jost is able, as Philipp Eng has not given up on this yet, and tries to come back at the Lamborghini. Fast downhill section on the Red Bull Mobile turn, and another lap completed. So Philipp Eng finds himself now down there in P3. It's Dominic Jost leading from David Russell, who is P2. Then it's Philipp Eng, then it's Andreas Wirth. And we're on board with Philipp Eng. This is the run-up to the Remus turn, then kink to the left-hand side. Very, very uphill section. Let's go on board with David Russell, looking back at Philipp Eng. And we cross to Philipp Eng again now. Philipp Eng, not quite close enough to dive up the inside, was considering it and thinking about it. All the time he's got to be conscious of the fact. And now he does almost get alongside David Russell, but Russell has shut the door. So Eng has to think again. He's the current Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland champion, and is having to fight and work very, very hard right from the very, very early stages of this race. Andreas Wirth has for company Sebastian Asch right behind him in the Mercedes SLS AMG GT3 car. So he's not able too much to trouble Philipp Eng at the moment, because he's too busy defending his place of P4 from the P5 car of Asch. So here is race leader Dominic Jost. There is P2 David Russell, and P3 Philipp Eng. And there you can see in P6 the all-black BMW of Claudia Hürtgen. Looking back at the Bentley of Lukas Stoltz, as the cars absolutely thunder past our commentary position. Diving up the inside, there is Remo Lips, and moving up a further place on the number 24 car. And also trying to go through as well is Prochik. And now the Bentley in the mix also. Harold Prochik there. We're on board with the HP Racing driver. Heavy braking now into the Schloss Gold turn where we begin the downhill. About a bit of a roller coaster, really. There, though, spaced out a little bit now. The leading pack, the Huracan of Adrian Zag and Mirko Bortolotti, coming under some pressure from Assenheimer. It's the battle for P7. You can see who's gone up, who's gone down, and who's stayed in the same place. Philipp Eng is the big loser, down 2 places. Big winner is Claudia Hürgen, up 6 places to P6 now. So looking back at Rahul Frey, currently running in P14. Around the Castrol Edge turn. There, the number 24 car of Florian Stoll and Mark Basing. Being driven by Florian Stoll. There's our race leader. P1, P2, P3 go through. Andreas Wirth now just beginning to reel in the Porsche ahead. Best sector 1 of anyone. Last lap was David Russell. On board with Philipp Eng, who has David Russell ahead of him. Having down now into P3 for that Porsche. P1 is the number 22 car of Dominic Jost. Philipp Eng not only taking curb but a bit of grass as well in his quest to keep on terms with David Russell. And then not far behind is the number 66 Corvette of Andreas Wirth. On board with Philipp Eng in replay here. On the left-hand side you can see just how he's fighting with that car. And that a mistake from Andreas Wirth. Runs really wide. No damage done, just lost a little bit of momentum. Around the Remus turn then. Go the 4 top. There is Claudia Hürgen then, who has a great effort to be up to P6. Bear in mind the start remains under investigation. Not had any further messages with regards to that. So Andreas Wirth gets a windscreen full of dirt from the Philipp Eng car. As we wait to pick up our race leader, Dominic Jost then. Last lap times, 1:31.426 for Jost, 1:31.317 for Russell, and 1:31.594 for Philipp Eng. On board with Andreas Wirth then, off the Red Bull Mobile turn. Start finish straight. Then uphill to the Castrol Edge right-hander. Running all the way off the track there. Keep an eye on the message board for track limit excursions. There's the kink as the uphill section towards this Remus turn that we are with now. Fantastic split screen image that we're able to give you of the car. making its way around the circuit, and actually what it's like from inside the car as well. Temperatures are going to be extremely high for the drivers. Takes curve in and out, and is not troubling Philip Eng at the moment. Equally, Eng is not able to make much on David Russell or Dominic Yost. So that the car that we had the split screen imagery from. Considering that those Corvettes over the last 2 years have been so dominant here at the Red Bull Ring. Claudia Hürtgen running in P6, and the Huracan of Adrian Zaug is at P7. Before we see yet another Corvette, that of Assenheimer. Then it's Klingman behind P9, and Lips rounds out the top 10 with the two-tone blue Corvette in P10. So Dominic Yost then has a 1 second margin over David Russell, who in turn has a 1.2 margin over Philip Eng. And Claudia Hürtgen really under pressure here. This is for P6. So the Lamborghini Huracan with Adrian Zaug at the helm, desperately trying to get past the BMW of Claudia Hürtgen. They're side by side. If Zaug can just remain committed to that, which he was unable to do, and what that's done has run him into the clutches of the Assenheimer car, and Assenheimer right alongside him now with the Corvette. They're side by side and also ready to just fall into that battle, as well as Jens Klingman in the BMW. So it's all change here further down the order as Jens Klingman goes through. He was able to take advantage of the battle that Assenheimer was having with Adrian Zaug, and he's moved himself up a place. Good opportunistic driving there from Jens Klingman. BMW Sports Trophy Team Schubert car. Harry Prochik we're on board with now in the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG GT3. You can see the Bentley ahead, currently running P13. The Bentley ahead, obviously running P12, and trying to find a way past the Audi of Florian Stoll and Mark Basing. All gold Mercedes with Rahal Frey behind in P14. So the Bentley all over the back of the Audi, trying to find a way through. 13.5 minutes of the race done. Pit stop window opens between 25 and 35 minutes into the race. We're on board with the Prochik Mercedes-Benz. But here, as we pick up our race leader, and P1 and P2 really beginning to pull away from the P3 driver. And there you can see over the last lap, the difference between Dominic Yost and David Russell. And they're both of them just pulling away a little bit from Philip Eng, the margin coming down a bit. In turn, Eng is getting away from Andreas Wirth. The challenge for now on Claudia Hürtgen has gone away, but this challenge most certainly hasn't. So Lucas Stoltz continues to try and find a way past the number 24 car of Florian Stoll. Harry Prochik then waiting for these two to come to blows, ready to pick up any advantage he possibly can. Opportunistic move that we saw earlier from Jens Klingman, who was able to just bide his time and let them fight out in front, and ended up gaining a place himself without too much difficulty. The uphill section into the Remus turn. And now Klingman himself is under some pressure from Assenheimer. Also Remo Lips in that mix as well. It's the battle for P8, 9 and 10 that you can just see. Claudia Hürtgen still has Adrian Zaug for company, and now Assenheimer then up the inside of Jens Klingman to reclaim that place. which was taken 2 or 3 laps ago. And Remo Lips also in car number 13. The RWT racing car run by the Gerd Beisel. As around goes Lucas Stoltz in the Bentley Continental GT3. Hopefully we'll get a replay and find out exactly what went wrong there. Bentley with a huge presence here in the paddock at Red Bull Ring. And less of a presence on the track now, sadly. As Rebecca Molan and well, Lucas Stoltz having presumably lost the back end of that car. We will see. Meantime, here comes the race leader. Can just see from the corner of my eye in the pit lane, Jens Klingmann has come in the number 80 car. So Klingmann in the pits. The pit stop window hasn't opened yet. We are 5 minutes away from that, so that's an unscheduled stop for Jens Klingmann. Can't see on the screen where there's any penalty at all that's been awarded to him. Could see no reason why there would be. So here we'll see the replay of the Bentley then. Well, that was why. Just a wheel off onto the grass, and that was enough to unsettle the back end, and Harry Prochik able to take advantage of that. So there, I mentioned that I'd seen the Jens Klingmann car in. It is in, and the Dominic Baumann Jens Klingmann car rapidly try and cool it. So the gap between P1 and P2 remains the same at about a second, as I thought was the case, as Philip Eng gets very sideways there. The gap back from P2 to P3 has increased to 1.6 seconds. And well, you can see Philip Eng, the back end of the car, stepped out around the Castrol Edge turn. Great shot of the Yost car through the Remus turn. And David Russell having taken a couple of tenths out. But at the moment, the Dominic Yost, Florian Scholzer car, the Nissan GTR Nismo GT3 from MRS Racing, untroubled at the front. However, in trouble is the Harry Prochik Mercedes. With the door coming open, that's the end of the Harry Prochik car. Was running fairly well up the order, but not anymore. P1, P2, P3 on screen, and Philip Eng, who planted that car on pole position, really is having to fight. Comes through the Red Bull Mobile turn. Looking at the last lap times, 1:31.077 from Yost, 1:31.407 from David Russell, so 4 tenths down, and then a 1:31.916 from Philip Eng. As lining up the Claudia Hürtgen BMW now is the Lamborghini Huracan of Adrian Zaug, and Zaug goes through. Did say that this Remus turn could be used as an overtake opportunity, and Zaug has done that. He's been knocking on the back of that BMW for lap after lap after lap, and finally is able to go through. Here's how it happened. Just dives up the inside, outbrakes Claudia Hürtgen going into this right-hander. Now, often carry too much speed. What helps is the fact that the momentum is uphill. So the opportunity for regaining the place on the switchback is unlikely, because you've lost too much momentum through the uphill section there. You can see Claudia Hürtgen trying to do that, but the Huracan goes through, and so Adrian Zaug moves himself now up to P6 and be in hot pursuit of that Mercedes, which which is currently P5. So there is the Lamborghini. The Huracan from the GRT Grasser Racing team. Completes another lap, but he's now P6 rather than P7. Claudio Hurtgen's BMW back down now to P7. We have a minute before the pit stop window opens. And Rahal Frey now being pursued by the Stefan Wackerbauer, Kelvin van der Linde, Christian Abt Racing Audi, which bears the number 1. Van der Linde, of course, champion last year. Brief word with Kelvin before the start of the race, and he said his best hopes really were to be the best Audi. Well, there's another Audi ahead now, and that is the Audi of Rahal Frey. Of course, ahead of that is the number 24 Audi of Florian Stoll. Daniel Kravitz there, being second, is to be the first of the ones who lives. Very, very interesting crash helmet design there. So Daniel getting ready for driver change. We get the thumbs up from him. Pit window is indeed open now. And just look at P1 and P2, how they've opened up that gap to Philipp Eng now. And Eng is really under pressure from Andreas Wirth. Claudio Hurtgen car is in the pit lane, I can see. So trying to get a pass done before the pit stop then is Andreas Wirth. Saw his teammate Daniel Kravitz prepped and ready to jump into the car. Well, not been able to get close enough to make a move through the Remus turn as they head towards Schloss Gold now. We're on board with Andreas Wirth in the Callaway competition car. This is the battle for P3. It's the P3 Porsche you can see ahead of Philipp Eng. Who'll be swapping with Klaus Bachler at some point between now and 35 minutes into the race. But for the meantime, he's having to work very, very hard in defending from the hard-charging Corvette, which has been so dominant here at the Red Bull Ring over the last 2 years, taking 4 wins out of 4 starts from 2014 and 2013, the Corvette. So looking back now as, whoa, in comes Philipp Eng. We stay with him. Also coming in is the David Russell car. It's going to be Thomas Enger that gets into the driving seat of that, and Klaus Bachler, who will jump into the Porsche now. So Eng assisted on his way out by Klaus Bachler. Dominic Yost at the moment stays out in the leading number 22 car. So Thomas Enger is in. Thomas Enger at the other end of the pit lane from last year's race will remain with me. It's one of those images for a long time when they were driving the Camaro and had a stop-go penalty and then broke the differential. So Bachler is away with the Porsche. Bentley leaves the pit lane. So nominally it's Yost, then Wirth P1 and P2 with Sebastian Asch P3. Then P5 is Florian Stoll. Florian Stoll has now jumped in, so that elevates Rahul Frey momentarily to P5. So at the moment, the top 5 have not been in for their mandatory pit stop. There you're at Blecker-Molen, the helm of the Bentley, the number 1 Audi. We see Kelvin van der Linde, Stefan Wackerbauer car, with Kelvin van der Linde at the wheel now. Number 66, Corvette. Andreas Wirth. We saw Daniel Karvitz in preparation, getting ready. And Wirth pushing very, very hard to get past Philipp Eng. But Eng coming into the pit lane, denying his opportunity of an overtake. But they were so close. Wirth will be hoping that be able to maybe gain a place during the pit stops. Stays out, I think. Race leader, Dominic Jost. Florian Scholze take over the driving of that Nissan GTR Nismo GT3, run by the MRS racing team. Minutes left in the pit window. Andreas Wirth is in, so too Sebastian Asch. And they're on board with the Wirth car as Daniel Karvitz, who we saw in preparation, is in the car. The Callaway competition team engineers with the stopwatch to make sure. And away the Corvette goes with Daniel Karvitz now at the wheel. Pit speed limit. Race leader. Really mixing it in with traffic now. 3.5 minutes before that car needs to come in, or within those 3.5 minutes. It's been told there's a 1 second time penalty for the Z4 GT3 of Jakob Noll and Lennart Marionek. B4 almost definitely 1 second short in the mandatory pit stop time. Of course, the 1 second time penalty much greater than that because it's into the pit lane, into the time penalty box, and then back out again. So there we can see in preparation Florian Scholze ready to jump into that very car that leads this race. Zaug is in, Rahul Frey is in now as well. There is Florian Scholze. Standing by and ready. What a great job Dominic Jost has done. Will he choose to come in this time? Could potentially get another lap away. No, chooses to come in. Now, barring any disasters in the pit lane, had such a margin over David Russell, the car now being driven by Thomas Enger, which we go on board with now, and we split the screen because this is the battle for the race lead. My calculation's such that if everything goes okay for Dominic Jost and Florian Scholze in this driver change, then should be out ahead of Thomas Enger. So Thomas Enger we're on board with now, the left-hand side of your screen. We're with the Florian Scholze being belted into the car in the pit lane on the right-hand side of your screen. Enger being told by Writer Engineering to give it absolutely everything he possibly can. The Nissan Nismo starts up. Again, the stopwatch is on. Absolutely don't want to collect a time penalty now. And it is away. There you can see Thomas Enger is on the start-finish straight. This is going to be very, very close indeed. So Enger, having done a brilliant job of it, is going to take the lead. So Enger does take the lead in the Lamborghini. So that car being put out free of traffic has meant some supreme lap time from Thomas Enger, and that's the battle for the win, or certainly the battle for the lead, and how strategy can work for you. Drive-through penalty has been awarded to the Lamborghini Huracan of Adrian Zaug and Mico Bertolotti for pit lane speeding. Pit window is closed now. So we have a change at the front. Thomas Enger then, along with David Russell, now lead this race. P2 is the second driver in that number 22 car, Florian Scholze. P3, Andreas Wirth, being driven now by Daniel Karvitz. Now P4, car number 63, is the Adrian Zaug Mirko Bortolotti car, but that has got a drive-through penalty, car number 63. Big loser in all of that is Porsche, which was on pole position, being driven now by Klaus Bachler down in P9. Saw a wheel being changed on that Porsche. Two Audis battling there. The number one machine being driven by Kelvin van der Linde and Stefan Wackerbauer. And Kelvin van der Linde had said desperately all we can achieve from this race today is to be the best Audi. Well, ahead of him is the Audi of Mark Baseng, the MS Racing Audi. So there is Philipp Eng, or the Philipp Eng car now being driven by Klaus Bachler. Thomas Eng leading the race then is last lap of 1:38.32. Be interested to have a look at the lap time of Florian Scholze when he's able to complete a lap. So van der Linde just tucks the back end of the car out onto the dirt there and loses a bit of momentum. Okay, last lap times we can bring you now. Enger a 1:39.74, Florian Scholze 1:31.971. And that's why the gap, as you can see, is some 3.334 seconds. Uwe Olsen is the driver, teaming up with Claudia Hürtgen this weekend as the Diego Alesi Corvette behind runs very, very wide. So the hugely experienced Uwe Olsen in the BMW, they're currently running P6. And through the Remus turn, you can see. Now, the number 63 Huracan is a rejoining car. I would think for having served a drive-through penalty. 1 second time penalty being awarded to Jakob Noll and Lennart Marionek with Senke Motorsports BMW Z4. So yes, basically what happened there is the returning Lamborghini, having served the drive-through penalty, has split the two Audis. So that's not great news for Kelvin van der Linde, who was trying to get past the Audi ahead of him and become the best Audi. There is our race leader, though, Thomas Enger, P1. Then it's Scholz at P2. Kyle Witz is P3. Little Ludwig is P4. Klaus Bachler at the wheel of this Porsche now, you can see, is going to cross the line at P8. So Enger, Scholz and Kyle Witz, the 1, 2, 3. Then it's Ludwig. Uwe Olsen is P5. Lacey is P6. Then in P7, it's the Sven Bart's car. We're on board with Klaus Bachler, the ADAC Motorsport driver. As that's how sometimes you can make that switchback work. And Uwe Olsen did that. Had been under pressure from the BMW, from the Corvette. And again, the Corvette of Diego Lacey up the goes through, but now Olsen fights back. This is a real battle between the two of them. At the moment, Olsen has had to yield, and now the Corvette's superiority perhaps through this downhill section might come into play. Dust being kicked up there. Olsen stays with them. Corvette having won the last 4 races here in the ADAC GT Masters, and the Corvette's superiority now at the hands of Sven Bart goes past the BMW, and now to Klaus Bachler right on the back of the BMW as they head up towards the Remus turn now, losing a handful of places. Here's Uwe Olsen in the BMW as Bachler right on his outside now will have the inside for this little kink and is able to put, whoa, the car right in front of the BMW of Olsen. Olsen again will try this switchback, which he did to great effect with Diego Lacey. And you can see now that Lacey has been released from the clutches, if you like, how far up the road he is. This was Sven Bart on Uwe Olsen, then in the number 19 BMW. And quite opportunistic from Klaus Bachler there, who's getting right into the mix as well. And Bachler wanted to play part of that little battle too. Try and restore some places for the Porsche, which of course started this race in pole position. Great to see Uwe Olsen out there on the track though, nonetheless. Oh, on the back end of the Scholz car just stepped away there. Is it the pressure from Kyle Witz that's beginning to play? Or is it a problem? I think it's a problem because the Scholz car is slow. And Kyle Witz has gone through unhindered, and so too Sebastian Asch. So the Florian Scholz and Nissan GT-R Nismo, well, whatever the fault was, that really is it. Now, that car is virtually at a standstill. You can hear it running, whether it's a transmission issue. But really is in a dangerous position there. Someone unsighted were to collect that car. So this was where I was looking for smoke out of the back. There is none. Grave, grave disappointment. The car seems to be going in there again. It had ground to a complete halt, hadn't it? Well, 4.5 seconds to the good, Thomas Enger. But we have 16.5 minutes left of the race. this is going to be a very interesting fraught fight to the finish. Because bear in mind that the car that is in P2 is the car that has proven to be the most dominant around the Red Bull Ring. So black flag for Lennart Marionek and Jakob Knoll from ADAC Motorsport. That car was under investigation. And, well, we just saw Dominic Yost there. So the number 12 car's race is finished. And there the car running around on the... Keep out of the way of everyone else running around on the grass to try and limp it back to the pit lane. Here is the race leader then, Thomas Enger. Now, the gap back to P2, 4.354. Now, the last lap times, Thomas Enger stepped up the pace a bit, doing a 1:31.7. Karvitz a 1:31.538. And Ash a 1:31.527. So Ash the quickest of the three as Florian Scholzer then brings the Nissan from MRS GT Racing back into the pit lane, and really rather fear that's going straight into the garage. Try and listen in to see if we can hear any of the conversation, which might just give us an indication of the problem as Backler gets past Sven Bart in the Corvette. So the Porsche coming good in the final quarter of the race, perhaps, as Sven Bart fights back, though. And this in replay. Bart went to turn in, found the gap full of Porsche. Cheeky move from Backler, but a good one through the inside. 4 seconds, the difference between Enger and Karvitz. Karvitz with a 1:39.84, Enger a 1:31.249. Karvitz is throwing everything at it that he possibly can. Is it going to be enough, though? We have only 13 minutes and 15 seconds in the race to run. On board momentarily with that car, Klaus Backler now having battled its way back up to P5, and next in the target sights is the Diego Alesi Corvette. It's Uwe Olsen in the BMW, pairing up with Claudia Hürtgen this weekend. Diego Alesi, former GT Masters champion from a couple of seasons ago, along with Daniel Karvitz, who is P2 at the moment and chasing down that Thomas Enger Lamborghini. Making great progress is Klaus Backler, trying to wrestle away or wrestle back some of those positions lost. And we go on board with Backler. And keeping an eye on the timing screen as well. Karvitz again 0.6 quicker than Thomas Enger last time around. The gap has come down to 3.495 now. Expect Thomas Enger now to turn the wick back up. Another 7 seconds back to Luca Ludwig in the Mercedes, which is running in P3. So Enger, Karvitz, Ludwig, then it's Alesi and Klaus Backler in P5, and that is the Backler car that is focus of our cameras at the moment. And we go on board with Backler as he's chasing down Alessi, who was a 10th quicker last lap around. This is the P3 car. Mercedes, driven by Luca Ludwig, Sebastian Asch. Car sounds absolutely fantastic. So as I thought might happen then, Enger has just turned it up a little bit at his last lap at 1:31.301 compared to Karvitz's 1:31.802. Interestingly, Ludwig a 1:31.251 is you know, being so far back, he's got a lot of work to do inside 10 minutes. So too, though, has Karvitz. Thomas Enger just under 4 seconds ahead. Just wonder whether he's managing that margin back to Daniel Karvitz and trying to get the best out of the car without pushing too hard. Just maintain a cushion back to P2. This then is the P4 car. So we can see P4, P5, P6 and P7 all in a line. And Backler all over the back of the Corvette. Although certainly through certain sections of the circuit and certain sectors, the Corvette, which has been so dominant here at the Red Bull Ring. And there you can see the order and who's moved up and who's moved down. Diego Alessi up a full 4 places. That's Backler and Philip Eng down 4. Up 10 though is Rimmer Lips and Sven Bart in car number 13. And the Hertgen Olsen car up 5 places. So we're with the car that is currently running P5, but all the time getting ever closer to former champion Diego Alessi ahead as they run up towards Castrol Edge now. And Sven Bart just keep a watched eye on this, ready to pounce should these two get close enough to start having a bit of a battle. Again, last time around, Thomas Enger was 4/10ths quicker than Daniel Karvitz. Which throws weight to my thought that he's managing that gap perfectly, Thomas Enger. As the Porsche gets a bit wide and wayward there in P5 with Klaus Backler at the wheel. There over the last 3 laps, you can see the difference between the Diego Alessi Corvette and the Klaus Backler Porsche. And Backler closer then than he has been for a few turns. Under 8 minutes left to run. So you saw him with the steering wheel, you can just see to the left of your picture. Runs out onto the curbs. So Enger then, who's increased his margin a little bit over Karvitz. It's 4.355 now, the margin between them. And Luca Ludwig in P3 is untroubled with no one directly behind or in front. Then we get to this battle, Alessi and Klaus Backler and Sven Bart just loitering behind them. Seven minutes left to run. The long run up to the Remus turn. Hard on the brakes. Backler right on the back of the Corvette. The back end try and step out, even though it's an uphill section. Brilliant split screen imagery that we can bring you as Backler continues to keep the pressure on Diego Alessi. Lacey yielding to that pressure at the moment. No huge mistakes, which is what Backler is hoping for. To give you a live gap. Last time it was just under. Well, there you can see. It was 5 down to 3. 6 minutes left to run. We go back to the clock at the top of the screen. And Thomas Enger then out front with 4 seconds over Daniel Karwitz. Right, can Klaus Backler line him up this time as they head over the timing line and up towards the Castrol Edge turn. And it's staying with the Corvette now, where the grunt of the Corvette really works so well. Up towards the Remus turn, there is the kink that they have to go through, that slight right-hander. And job done, because Backler not quite close enough to be able to do anything. In the meantime, Bortolotti then in the Huracan is going to try and find a way past Uwe Olsen in the BMW Z4. As we focus on that now, going to dive up the inside here. Is Olsen going to shut the door? Well, certainly the number 63 car was not quite close enough, but now Bortolotti is going to stick it out, and does go through. Uwe Olsen stays with it though and tries to fight back. That's Olsen running wide, opening up the window of opportunity there for Bortolotti. Fantastic commitment around the outside. Stuck with it and eventually job done. Okay, now Backler has got to consider going into defense mode, because Sven Bart is closer than he's been for a while. Sven Bart is turning up the wick. We've got under 4 minutes left to run. I think Eng is going to be, Thomas Enger is going to be untroubled at the front. Built up sufficient margin over Daniel Karwitz. This is how close Backler is getting. Whoa. That's how close Backler was getting. Have to drop back now. Margin between Thomas Enger and Daniel Karwitz just under 3 seconds. Then 6 seconds back before we get to Luca Ludwig, who is P3. On board with Backler, who had a Lacey in his target sights, but is now too far back to mount a challenge. Get 2 more laps out of this race, I would think. But Sven Bart will be sniffing the opportunity to wrestle that P5 away from Backler. In the meantime, this is Luca Ludwig out on his own. Cars ahead are 6 seconds up the road. Cars behind, some 14 seconds behind. So really is out on his own in the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG GT3 from Zach Speed. So barring any disasters, P3 should be assured. Here comes race leader. 1:35.432 as he crosses the timing line. whether this will be the last lap. Because with 1:32 and his last 1:32 on the clock remaining in the race, and his last lap time at 1:32, it's right on the knife edge, really. .8 margin between Enger and Karwitz. Ludwig P3, Alesi P4, Backler P5. Bart still not able to get past Backler. He's P6. We're on board with the Reiter Engineering Gallardo REX. Being driven by Thomas Enger then. And there are the last 3 laps. You can see the difference in the times. On board with Enger, David Russell having done a fantastic job in the first stint. Enger maintaining that great job in the second stint of this race. ADAC GT Masters here at the Red Bull Ring before heading off to Spa-Francorchamps, then Lausitz-Ring, Nürburgring, Sachsenring, Zandvoort and Hockenheim, which will bring the season to a close. Yeah, going to cross the timing line with just time for 1 more lap. And there, confirmation as the final lap graphic goes to the top of the screen. So, with 1.88 seconds behind, barring a huge error from Thomas Enger, Karwitz probably stay P2. Is Backler going to have one last charge then at the Diego Alesi car as we see them through the Castrol Edge turn there. And there you can see looking on. Plenty of stress in the face there. So Enger and David Russell in that number 25 machine. The Reiter Engineering Gallardo. Gap was 1.995, live gap down to 1.787. But it's all probably too late. Karwitz with a valiant effort to try and get on terms with the Lambo. And it's going to be the Lamborghini Gallardo, barring any disaster, that is going to break the 4-race-strong winning sweep from the Corvettes as he heads towards the checkered flag. Thomas Enger and David Russell having delivered a fantastic race performance and take the win from Daniel Karwitz at P2 with Andreas Wirth. Crossing the line to take P3 untroubled is going to be Luca Ludwig and Sebastian Asch. And this battle for P4 is not quite over yet, although I think it is. I think it's going to go the way of Diego Alesi. In fact, I'm sure it is now, as Alesi takes P4 and Klaus Backler takes P5. And it's Bortolotti and Sven Bart over Olsen, then P8. P9 for the MS Racing is Mark Baseng. And Kelvin van der Linde then didn't quite get what he wanted in terms of being the best Audi, but does finish in the points P10. So delight on the pit perch and on the pit wall for Reiter Engineering. David Russell having done a great job. Thomas Enger doing a great job as well. The podium is in sight. Here we have the result after 39 laps in full. Russell Enger take the win then with Wirth and Karwitz P2. Then it's Asch and Ludwig P3. Then we see Assenheimer, Alesi, Eng, Backler, Zaug and Bortolotti. Then it's Lips and Bart and Herk and Olsen, Stoll and Baseng, Wackerbauer and van der Linde in the points P10. Then it's Rahul Frey and Guy Pell, Jordan Lee Pepper and Nicky Thiem take P12. Hardly mentioned them in the race because there's been so much going on. We haven't really had a chance to see them. So the first 12 places in the ADAC GT Masters race 1 of 2 here at the Red Bull Ring. Some 39 laps in the sunshine then, as we await the cars into Parc Fermé and the podium ceremony, which will be underway in but a few moments' time. But very, very dominant performance from Enger and Russell. There, the rest of the order: Stolz and Blecker-Molen, Weishaupt, Jons, Nolan Marionek, and you can see them all on screen. Here's the moment then that the Lamborghini broke the 4-race dominance of the Corvette, and the checkered flag fell, and Thomas Enger and David Russell, having done everything with Reiter Engineering, and there is delight that you can see. Great looking car, that Gallardo. And we're on board with it now as it heads towards position number 1. Quite going to take the door off the Corvette. Big rev to say well done, car. Great emotions to watch. Great emotions to watch. The Reiter Engineering pairing get together. Try and listen in if we can.